The average worker spends around 2 hours, even up to 5 hours a day on video conference meetings or video of some sort. If you are one of those people, the very first thing that people will see is what is around you. So today in this video, I'm going to help you in a matter of a few minutes to showing your best self when you go on a video. What I'm going to be using is the Logitech Brio 4K. What you're also seeing is a 720p image. As we stream to the multiple platforms, some of them don't allow for 1080, and virtually none of them allow a 4K resolution to come through in its true image. But you're going to get a very, very big demonstration on what most folks look like when they turn on the camera, and you'll see a before and after. We're all going to also deal with some of these lights. We've gotten a few comments online when it comes to using webcams that some of them proclaim that they do low lighting compensation, and they do. And I think for some of the folks that we've dealt with and customers and client in the past, when it comes to low light, there are some features that you probably need to turn on in order for that to work. I'm going to show you how to do that in just a matter of a few clicks. You'll be able to do that and look like a pro. Before we dive into the Logitech Brio, let me take you from the beginning. So you have a very good picture of the before and after. If you're looking at me on these screens, obviously you've got the podcast screen on the left. That is a high quality video. But for most folks, you're looking at an upshot. That's not going to work in 2025, 26, 27, and beyond. You want to flatter yourself. You want to take advantage of every tool that's out there. So if you need to be on video, here's what you want to do. You don't want to look like this guy right here, where people are looking up your nose. That's just not very flattering. But you could do this. There we go. This is a fair comparison. This is a very good comparison. So on the left, you have the Brio 4K. On the right, you have standard laptop video. And this is coming off of a Lenovo camera. Just for those folks at home that can't see that, that's what that looks like. There's the Lenovo. So what can you do? The first thing we're going to do is you want to go out and get a 4K webcam. That's the basic. If you can get 4K, great. 1080p at a minimum, because some platforms, Google, I believe Microsoft Teams, Zoom for sure, those three have the ability to transmit and receive video at 1080p. So at a minimum, when you're streaming, you'll be able to do 1080p. If you're not streaming and you're recording in 4K, that's a whole nother animal. You have that ability there to locally record on your computer in 4K. So this is what you're looking at. Let's simulate, because right now I've got 1, 2, 3, and I've got these two lights behind me. You're looking at optimal lighting. I have not done any changing on the Logitech yet, but this is optimal lighting. And not everybody has optimal lighting. And this is where we take a turn. Okay. So let me do something when it comes to the lighting. Now we're going to go a bit extreme here. All right. And we're going to work our way back. Now there is only one light. You can't really see it. It's in front of me. It's in the ceiling. And I have these two lamps. So it's really darkish conditions right now. There isn't a lot of light, as you could see from what we were doing just previously. So on the right, you also have what it would look like if you lived or had to work in an environment like this. It's not very flattering, but we could still do something. As you can see, the Logitech still allows you to have something that's some semi-clear. It's not the best. It's not what you would want, but we could still work with that, even under these conditions. But in order to get that, let me show you what we had to do. We're going to add this Logitech app. This is something you're going to need if you want to take this to the next level. The Logitech app is what allows you to jump into the webcam and change it so that it fits your lighting. There's several things that, as you can see, will impact the lighting you have, how much light, how powerful. Download your Logitech app. As you can see here, I've got 3 devices plugged in at the moment. So you'll have your webcam. You click into the webcam, and right now you see where this camera preview is not available. If you get that, it is because On a Windows system, Windows does not allow you to have, let's say, Teams open at the same time as Zoom, and then it pushes out, or it will not let you push out video on both at the same time. So it's telling me, hey, there's another app that's also connected on your laptop or PC that is also trying to grab the Logitech webcam. So once you're here, what you want to do is come down into this camera settings. Inside the camera settings, you'll get a pop up. And on the right hand side, you have several options. If you feel like you need to zoom in, and I'm going to do that, and you're going to see my picture zoom in all the way into my face and mouth. I don't generally like to do that. I like to have a little headroom. So above my head, there's a little bit of space. And that's usually going to be the sweet spot. You could do a lot less if you're doing, wider shot and you have other things that are going on around you. But usually, if you're just going to do a one on one, give it a little bit of zoom and that should take care of it. On the Logitech Brio, you can change the angle of the field of view. So if you wanted to narrow out and not allow a lot of that extraneous stuff to your right or left, you can easily do that. Okay. Exposure. The first place to check if you're having any sort of issue when it comes to low light problems. Are any of these turned off? So let me explain what they are. Auto exposure. That means that Logitech camera, you're going to let it do its thing on its own so that it can figure out how much to compensate, which takes us to the next thing. Low light compensation. This is, if enabled, allow the webcam to dynamically vary the frame rate to compensate for low light conditions. Again, you're allowing the webcam to do its work. Newer webcams do this better than older ones. So make sure that the low light compensation is turned on. Next, HDR combines multiple exposures to capture a broader range of light, enhancing contrast for dark and light areas of the image. Essentially, your blacker or blacker and your other colors, they maintain more richness, if we can call it that, and that contrast between those colors rather than bleeding in or being very soft. So if you can enable that, you'll go ahead and enable it, and that should improve the picture. Now, on to the next thing where we start fine tuning what we've got in terms of what we look like. This is what we're working with, or the image that you're seeing right now. This is where we start playing with this. And I'm going to walk you through this. There's four main levers that we can pull or adjust: brightness, contrast, saturation, sharpness. So with the first one that you want, I would go in is just brightness. And in your environment, this is how you want to do it. If you have one place where you're always doing these video meetings, you probably are not going to need to change this after you do this. Okay. So you're just looking and eyeballing it. You do not need to be a AV specialist to do this, like, or somebody that knows a ton about AV. You eyeball it and you tell yourself, hey, that's too dark. And then you just keep working with it until you see a picture that's satisfactory. That's why I usually like going all the way one way, all the way the other way, seeing how that looks. And usually somewhere in the middle, even with low light, you'll be able to nail it. Okay. So around the 50s, all right, contrast would do the same thing. What does it look like with too much contrast? Too little contrast. And sometimes, depending on your conditions, one will satisfy the other. But typically, somewhere again in the middle is where it starts looking a little better. Again, it will vary on your lighting. Let's look at saturation. All right. So, saturation, as you can see, changes the kind of richness that's in there. How much of the colors are we getting to see? Look, so there we go. We go the other direction. See way more color. It looks a little bit more like Halloweenish in behind me. Probably don't want that unless you're going for that kind of effect. Okay. So again, somewhere in the middle is usually best. And I'm eyeballing it because I don't have my other monitor or the actual picture here because it's being used by the other application, the streaming one that we're using. Now, sharpness. This is totally an individual decision on what to do with sharpness. What you have here, some folks want to not show every detail. Some people don't care to show every detail. Maybe you're using your webcam to show product images or you're doing sales demos of products. That's an instance where you probably want to crank it all the way up. and the picture maintains a fairly accurate, crisp look. But again, if you're using products or you're using your own face, you could just slide it to a level where you're comfortable with and it flatters yourself. Again, there's no wrong answer here. This is a preference. Last but not least, autofocus. For most people that are going to use a webcam, I would leave the autofocus on. Now, if you are someone that understands exactly where you're going to be and you want to maintain that level of focus, that's great. And you're going to probably vary this, and maybe if you're using it in different environments. But let me show you what happens when I focus like this. It's way out. Now, in this case, there is a right and wrong-ish. If you're all the way too focused, and again, depending on the distance, focus is going to depend on your distance away from the camera. There is a right and wrong. This does a pretty good job of autofocus. And now you have just configured the Logitech webcam. If this was my low lighting and this is all I could deal with, obviously it's not the best, but it's better, much better than the other option. My other option, if this was my lighting and this is where I had to do video conferences, I'd be looking down at this laptop because that's all I'd be working with. But we could do better. We could do better than that. This is now where we start taking it and refining the look. Okay. Now, with a webcam like the Logitech, the moment we start adding more light into the equation, we start enhancing things. This is what it would look like if I just had one light. This is for me, my side or fill light. And that alone makes a huge difference. Now, if I have room and space on the left, it shines that's just enough to hit a little bit off the shoulder, right? It does make a huge difference, a tiny difference on the Logitech, a big difference on the laptop. And if I were to put the regular streaming webcam that I use, it makes a big difference. Now, let's turn those off. Watch this. This is a lot better now. That doesn't look bad at all. I could probably refine it a bit inside the Logitech software, give it a little bit more so it doesn't look as overexposed. Yeah, I could see my face. There's a lot of light right here. And what I'd want to do is balance that out a little bit. So if you do have a ring light, which I wouldn't recommend, go get something like an Amarin, one of these that look like an umbrella style. Those are going to give you that nice flattering look like what you see on the streaming webcam that I have. So if you've got too much light, let's take that down a bit. See that? There we go. It was too bright. That looks much better. That's already starting to look better just by bringing down the brightness. And this again is happening inside the Logitech software. Let's bring that down a little bit more, see what that looks like from 42 to 37. See, now it's starting to look a bit smoky around me, a little too much black. There's a little too much black, a little too much shadow on this side. Now, if I didn't have these other lights, then what we want to do is really make sure that brightness is not cranked up too much. Maybe we dial it down a little bit, but it's not so hot. Now let's take a look at the saturation on this. That's the other thing. If you see that you've got too much light, and you can see I'm taking the saturation down. Okay. What that looks like. Oh, okay. Okay. We could do a little bit better than that. Let's see. Ooh, too light. Not enough color. I'm going to just take the saturation up. See, that's too much. Okay, so it's in the 50s, right around there. Let's take a look at the sharpness, too much detail. From the 50s to the 60s, so right now I'm at 63% sharpness. Contrast, let me just work the contrast a little bit more. Too much contrast. So contrast at the 40s. Okay. And what I'm really concerned about is my face more than the background. You could see right now that the background is completely gray. And there's some little camera trickery that's going to be played here in a second. But this is way, way, way better. Look at what's next to me here. This shot of the laptop. That is way too many people that look like that. You don't need to look that way. You don't need to look like that. Not anymore. Do you want it to look like this right here, like this laptop? Or do you want it to look like this Logitech? Now, we haven't even talked about audio. It's going to sound very different. This is the audio on the Logitech Brio 4K webcam. How does this sound? Is this acceptable? Is this not? It's very likely that you may hear roominess. Now, Logitech claims that on their webcam, they're able to provide some noise canceling. I'm going to do the noise canceling tests on another video, future video. I will. Now, if you're in an environment like this one, I have a door that's closed. My kids aren't jumping up and down right now. I'm about 3 feet, a little over 3 feet or so distance from the webcam, which is standard. I mean, we can get a little closer, but you start getting really close. I don't think you want to show up on camera like this. So if you do show up on camera, here's a pro tip. Show up on camera where you can get most or 2/3 of your body in the frame instead of something like this where all we've got is head, right? Just a little bit more flattering. I've got something for you. Did you know that we have partnered up with Amazon right from the mobile app? You can get expert support right from my team. You're never stranded. You're only 2 clicks away from getting gold level support. Here's the catch. Make sure your order says sold by Global Tech Worldwide, and you will be eligible to get that support right through the mobile app. You can talk with us. We have a phone number where you can reach us live. We have a chat option. You want email, you don't want to talk to anybody, but you want somebody that understands you or your team and the equipment that they've ordered, not somebody that's some faraway country that's zero clue on what you need. When you order from Global Tech through Amazon, you will get that as part of the package. No need for anything additional. So I want to thank you for hopping on this video to learn on how to get the best out of your webcam. If you got questions or comments, go ahead and drop those in. I take a look at those, and so does my team. So thanks for joining me today, and I will see you next time.